On April 20, the opening ceremony of the Boao Forum for Asia 2021 was held in Hi-nan, China. The official Chinese media announced that this year's event was themed, A World in Change, Join Hands to Strengthen Global Governance and Advance Belt and Road Cooperation. The top leader of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, gave his keynote speech at its opening ceremony.
一带一路是大家携手前进的阳光大道，不是某一方的私家小路。共建一带一路追求的是发展，崇尚的是共赢，传递的是希望。
Xi emphasized equal consultation, openness and innovation, helping each other and adhering to justice to create a future of win-win and shared development and prosperity, health and security with mutual respect. Australia clearly disagrees with what Xi said. Australian Foreign Minister Marise Payne announced on the evening of the 21st that the Belt and Road Agreement that the Victorian governor had signed with China without permission had been scrapped under Australia's new Foreign Relations Bill. Two other education agreements between the Victorian government and Iran and Syria were also cancelled. Payne said she believed the agreements were inconsistent with Australia's foreign policy or detrimental to our foreign relations.
We will always act in Australia's national interest to protect Australia, but to also ensure that we can advance our national interests of a free and open Indo-Pacific and a world that seeks a balance in favour of freedom.
China is not a cow. I don't think anybody should fancy the idea to milk China when she's in the prime.
Last December, the Foreign Relations Act of 2020 was formally passed in the Australian Parliament. The Australian Foreign Minister has officially been given new powers to repeal such foreign-related agreements signed by state governments that are contrary to the national interest. The Victorian government signed a deal with Beijing in 2019. Under the agreement, the two sides plan to cooperate in a number of areas, including increasing the number of Chinese companies participating in $107 million worth of infrastructure projects in Victoria and allowing Victorian companies to participate in China's Belt and Road construction projects elsewhere in the world. The plan also included increased cooperation in advanced manufacturing areas, such as sharing experience and training in biotechnology and agricultural technology. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, Victoria's trade deficit with China has increased by about 25% since the state signed the Belt and Road Agreement, with cumulative trade imports from China exceeding exports by $42 billion. Victoria's trade deficit with China has almost doubled if counting from 2014 onwards. Last month, Victorian Governor Andrews was injured in an accidental fall at his home, resulting in several broken ribs and spinal damage that may require several months of recovery, and the Lieutenant Governor is currently acting as governor. The Victorian government has not objected to the federal repeal of the Belt and Road Agreement. This incident is expected to further aggravate the trade relations between China and Australia. Australian media have argued that the Belt and Road Initiative aims to establish China's global economic and political power and advance the influence of the Chinese Communist Party. In 2013, China established the One Belt, One Road as a national strategy, a plan to invest heavily in infrastructure with countries near the old Silk Road, i.e., to build railroads, roads, airports, and other large-scale projects. The belt refers to the Silk Road economic belt, which mainly consists of 3 railroads from China through Europe and Asia. The One Road refers to the 21st century maritime Silk Road, which mainly consists of 2 routes, namely China to the South Pacific and China to the Indian Ocean extending to Europe, connecting Asia, the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. China's Fujian province is the core area of this route. The belt makes the Xinjiang province of China the core area. Hong Kong is the platform for raising funds. The main sources of funding for the project are the China Development Bank and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Chinese media reported that by the end of February 2021, China had signed 205 cooperation documents with 140 countries and 31 international organizations to build the Belt and Road. In this year's Boao Forum, the participating heads of state are mostly from Asia, Africa, and other underdeveloped countries. Among the developed countries, only the President of South Korea and the Prime Minister of New Zealand attended by video. The world is examining the practical results of the Belt and Road project. It hasn't brought the promised benefits to those countries who have accepted the agreement. More importantly, it has increased the risk of debt considerably. Data from Boston University, which tracks China's overseas development funding, shows that foreign lending by the China Development Bank and Exim Bank of China amounted to $462 billion from 2008 to 2019, only slightly less than $467 billion by the World Bank. In several of those years, Chinese banks lent almost as much as the 6 global multilateral financial institutions combined. If the countries receiving the loans do not have the money to pay their debts, they will need to provide natural resources or lease important ports to cover their debts. In 2017, Sri Lanka leased the southern deepwater port of Hambantota, which has high military, economic, and geopolitical value to the Chinese Communist Party, for 99 years because it could not repay the huge debt it owed to Beijing. Last week, the Balkan Peninsula-based Montenegro asked the European Union for help. In 2014, Montenegro borrowed nearly €1 billion from China and is facing a huge debt crisis. The European Commission said it could help finish the highway, but has refused to repay €1 billion worth of debt for Montenegro. Last year's pandemic has hit the economies of many countries passing through the Belt and Road. There is a good probability that these countries' debts will become bad debt. Currently, at least 18 countries are in debt negotiations with Beijing for infrastructure projects involving tens of billions of dollars of debt. China once claimed to invest $1 trillion to build infrastructure for developing countries, but with the downturn in US-China relations and the pandemic outbreak hitting the global economy, lending by Chinese financial institutions has fallen off a cliff, and Beijing itself is about to fall into a debt crisis. Lending by the main funding pillars of the Belt and Road Initiative, the CCP-controlled China Development Bank and the Export-Import Bank of China has shrunk significantly, slipping from a peak of US $75 billion in 2016 to US $4 billion in 2019. Some Chinese economists also believe that investing in poor and troubled areas with poor investment environments is unlikely to effectively solve China's problem of excessive production, other than wasting China's valuable resources. But the Belt and Road project could meet Beijing's key demands in other areas. For example, after Greece received a large investment from Beijing, the European Union was prevented from condemning the Chinese Communist Party's human rights record in 2017.
还会有一些增加，以亚洲为中心为重点，但是也要给其他国家提供贷款。现在董事会批准的对非亚洲地区的贷款呢，是控制在15%左右。但是我想，今后嘛，这个随着业务的扩大嘛，我们至少要增加到25%。
Beyond the debt crisis, there are additional risks for countries that accept Belt and Road agreements. Chinese companies well-versed in corrupt practices have colluded with some highly corrupt foreign governments in exchange for backing and approval for BRI projects, exacerbating the level of corruption in these countries. For example, Chinese companies have offered bribes to Philippine government officials in order to get approval for projects. Environmentally, some Belt and Road projects have caused depletion and pollution of local natural resources. The CCP is promoting coal-fired power plants in the Belt and Road projects, which facilitates pollution-intensive forms of power generation in partner countries. On the military front, the dual-use facilities built under the Belt and Road will further enhance the ability of the Communist Party's military to operate globally. This will create new risks for the US and allied operations in the Indian Ocean region and beyond. For example, 4,000 US troops are stationed at Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, East Africa, a country that has borrowed more money from Beijing than it can repay and is still eager to cooperate with Beijing. The CCP has been able to establish its first overseas military base just 6 miles from a US military base. Personnel at the Chinese military base in Djibouti have frequently aimed powerful lasers at US aircraft flying in or near Djibouti, causing eye injuries to US pilots. Recently, the CCP has expanded its military port in Djibouti, large enough to accommodate aircraft carriers. General Stephen Townsend, commander of U.S. Africa Command, said during an April 20 hearing before the House Committee on Armed Services, "China is of great concern. They are literally everywhere on the continent. They are placing a lot of bets down. They are spending a lot of money. They built a lot of critical infrastructure." One concern for the US is whether the Djibouti government, which is heavily indebted, will be forced to hand over control of Camp Lemonnier to the Chinese Communist Party. Since 2018, the CCP has vigorously advocated the digital Silk Road. According to the official Chinese media, the Boao Forum declares that with the rapid development of artificial intelligence and big data technology, the smart logistics industry will also welcome the future, and with the promotion of the digital Silk Road, goods will be within reach. What does it mean? The digital Silk Road focuses on the construction of fiber optic cable information infrastructure, internet, data and information services, international communications, and e-commerce. Many Belt and Road countries do not have a complete credit system. The CCP hopes to use the digital Silk Road to promote China's digital currency, e-commerce models, and electronic payment methods such as Alipay and WeChat Pay to these countries in order to replace traditional payment methods there and to completely exclude Western e-commerce. The Chinese government's Great Firewall, a blockade of the network, will also be exported to more countries with the digital Silk Road. If the digital infrastructure constructed by the CCP for undeveloped countries cuts these countries off from Western society, even to the extent that the airspace is in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party, what kind of order will it bring to the world? So far, more and more countries along the Belt and Road have joined the boycott. In 2014, Myanmar called off a $3.6 billion dam project. And in 2017, Pakistan rejected Chinese funding for the Diamo Basha Dam project. Nepal decided to halt the $2.5 billion Buddha Gandaki hydroelectric power station, which was being built by the Gurjoba group. In 2018, Sri Lanka found itself in debt and had to sell its port. It then rejected the Chinese investment in oil refineries. The Indian government refused to participate in China's One Belt, One Road initiative. The government of the Republic of Sierra Leone cancelled a Chinese-funded airport construction project. Malaysia will cancel the East Coast Railway project contracted by the Chinese state-owned company. In 2020, the Tanzanian government cancelled the port construction project, and in January 2021, the Cavite municipality cancelled the Sangli Airport upgrade project by the China Communications Construction Group company. It is reasonable to believe that Australia will not be the last one to cancel the Belt and Road.
We continue to stand with the people of Australia as they bear the brunt of the PRC's coercive behavior. I believe it was Foreign Minister Payne who made clear in her statement that the Australian government has determined that the agreements you refer to be inconsistent with Australia's foreign policy or adverse to Australia's foreign relations. The government's cancellation of these additional arrangements with entities in Iran and in entities in Syria further demonstrate that Australia is focused on protecting its national interest from all international concerns. This is not unique to the PRC, but these are decisions by the Australian government.
中方对此表示强烈不满和坚决反对，已经向澳方提出严正交涉。我们敦促澳方摒弃冷战思维，立即纠正错误，改弦更张，不要在错误的道路上越走越远，使原本就面临严重困难的中澳关系雪上加霜。
We would like to invite you to subscribe. We strive to bring you the latest news, commentary, and insights out of China. Be sure to click the bell as well so that you're notified when we post new content. Now moving on.